I did send you that little email, and then
Yes. That.
that way I'll just put that on the
I've got the.
screen,
Oh yeah.
and then if
Okay.
you've got any, and then we could just talk through that quickly, just so you kind of we understand what it all means,
Yeah.
and we go from there. So in actual fact. Is that coming through yet? Can't be far off. There we go. Was that coming out? Still not coming through. Is that coming through? No, I could not start screen browser is having trouble. Okay,
Uh,
hang on. No, that's not coming through. I'll try again.
do I need to minimise your? I've got. I
You
can't.
don't need to do anything.
Oh, okay.
It's more my end, but um, for some reason, it's not immediately sharing. Oh, here we go. It's sharing
Yep.
now. Very
Yep.
good.
There we
Um,
go.
so what
Right.
I so what I used to do a lot of, I'll explain this first, but basically, yeah. So this is probably the best place to start. Basically, so I've been doing this for roughly, well, since 2012. So I might have said to you last time, I went back and studied masters in marketing. Think I'd become a sports marketer, but at the time, social media was really the hot topic. I did a little bit of social media with some brands, but largely then I found myself helping a lot of small businesses. Often the businesses that agencies probably don't want to help because there's probably not the same sort of financial and monetary return, but there's a lot of us, right? Small businesses in the
Sure.
main, right? So that was my lot, and I guess I continue to. I've probably done sort of 500 businesses and continue to do a lot of small business over that journey. And when I'm saying small, that's actually mainly almost your sole trader micro business. So it's the micro business, that under four type business largely that I've sort of had exposure to. Have done larger, but as I said, in marketing context, the old Pareto 80/20. I'll tell
Yes,
you that
that's
it's
right.
mainly the 80/20 is the micro. So anyway, the intent of and the model we use is the website is really important, and so the main reason the website is important is there's a couple of things. Firstly, we want to add the social media so that they're connected to the website and it's all integrated. And there's a bit of pixel code that we can use and helps us measure. But largely, it's because we want to use the content that's readily available to us on the website. So in your case, it's the actual wine product, non-alcoholic wine product themselves. It's the why you might consider non-alcoholic these wines rather than what's the benefits of that, and your website has a number of those sort of things. So we take the content then from here and we repurpose it largely to these four social media sites. So you know Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn
Yeah.
Company, and X, which is the old Twitter. And then we can now do Google updates as well. So it's these five, but we do set up YouTube as well, just because it helps from a searchable perspective, right? Um,
Um,
so so the strategy is to take content from the website, the Loxton website, as in this case, and share it down to these news feeds, potentially
yes.
advertising a particular post, which might be, again, it might be just the more a complete sort of post that talks about the variety of wine available and the benefit and how you actually order it. Effectively, it would be maybe an animated, as in a moving picture, not video per se, but it would be a video. It would just be a 5 second sort of thing to capture attention, with the intent, whether it's an organic post, in other words, no money behind them, or whether there's any money behind it. And usually, most of our clients might spend $5 a day. So we're not talking about lots of money around the Facebook advertising. We're just talking about a nominal amount,
Hmm.
because it has a max benefit to actually get eyeballs on it and then clicks through to get them back to the website where they can find out about those wines,
Yes.
and they can order the wine. So in other words, we know that the sale, in particular with your business, is going to happen back here.
Yep.
We don't, and we certainly don't set up to try and make the sale happen down here. We want the sale to come back to here. Yeah. Um, so that's pretty much that central area is what the model is. The reason I do this sort of stuff is, particularly in my world, marketers would call this almost a marketing house, but in business, I think we call that's probably more of a business strategy house. But
Mm.
marketing, being, all of that sort of price, product, promotion, and placement, I think, are the key for. But essentially, what we're really focusing on is communication, right? So, and when we're doing social media marketing, particularly if we're targeting ads, we want to know who the likely customer is, i.e., those people that, it's coming up to dry July, so it'd be a good time for, so
Yes.
people that like the idea of, having a drink, but they don't always want to have it with alcohol. It's got
Yeah.
to be a good offer, and I think you have that. And you've told me, I think, it's been successful and certainly has appeal beyond our shores. What makes
Yeah.
you unique? And then, really, in terms of the reason I put this, I talked about content, because content, you might have heard, content marketing really is only two
Yeah.
things. It's the words you use,
Yeah.
and the images you use. So images and wording is really important. And again, we largely take it from the website. If we need more imagery, particularly, we might speak to you about that, about getting more imagery. But largely, we tell people to put all of their content on the website so it can be used through to the social media feeds. Does that make
Oh, yeah.
sense? Yep. So anyway, and then up here, the way I sort of distinguish between communication, which could also be emailing, could also be networking. You were talking about that. Could be other forms of communication. We're talking about social media communication, and then when it's paid, that's the paid stuff. So that's the sort of Facebook ad side of things. Um, Online, so the fact that we've got this stuff here, there's sort of you, and people often with their social media marketing often will get confused between themselves and their business. So what we're talking about here is your business, right? So social media
Mm.
marketing for your business or businesses. um,
Yeah.
but you're still central to that, and where you become central to that, often, is your professional LinkedIn profile. So we often want people to look all star in that. Not that we're actually posting to there. We just want them. It's like the business card. It's like having, so the
Yeah.
people look you up. They'll go, okay, oh, that's the bloke that has Loxton wines and has the garden products and has the co-working spaces or whatever, all those things that you have, right? So, and,
Yeah.
and and the good thing is, I mean, more and more people have those multiple hats, right? So it's just so that they
Mm.
know that they're speaking to the right guy. And the reality is, nowadays, and you, even from the start of our conversation, you would know this, is that people buy from other people, particularly around what they like. So the most powerful from a direct marketing perspective is when Paul suggests something, whether it's to follow a page or to
Mm.
try our wine or whatever it might well be. It's more powerful from a Paul than it is from a overall business marketing. So there is the elements and things you can do when we do the setup and then we're doing the management that can aid yourself and aid us in terms of spreading the word and making it slightly more powerful. But largely, it's around sort of getting your network. Not only the people that are likely to buy, but the people that are likely to tell you about you and just want you to do well in life. Um,
Yeah.
we want to do social media marketing as good, probably better, than any rival. And particularly when we're advertising, we know that generally the prospects that are likely to buy the current wine probably look quite similar to the current customer. So again, when we're spending $5 a day, you don't have a lot of room for error. You don't want to be blowing money on spending it to get to 5 million people around Australia if it's going to take you 25 years to get to all of those people. We want to keep relatively narrow targeted audiences so that
Mm.
we get the best bang for our $5 a day, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I
So
see.
yeah,
Well, what I don't see is Microsoft advertising.
yeah. Microsoft advertising, that would be separate to social media side of things. So social media, for the way we talk of social media, is these six platforms basically. So
Yeah.
when you're saying Microsoft, do you meaning
Well, Bing, like Bing
I
advertising.
yeah, so Bing, so even, well, Bing being, I think there's about 8% of people use Bing. So them, and most people that I know use Bing use it because they don't know how to change the setting from the laptop that they received. And so Bing is increasingly, you might have seen that or heard that. Yes, it's
Mm.
increasingly, but it's still small fry when it comes to Google
Mm.
search and Google advertising. So what we do aids Google, but Google search and paid Google advertising is significantly different. Largely, they're not marketers. In fact, I remember going to a thing where Kogan was at. I don't know if you know Rosalind Kogan. You would have heard
Oh
his
yes,
ads, right?
seen them.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he once said to me, "Oh yeah, I never employ marketers. I just employ accountants." so, so basically, and that so SEO and Google Ads is a different specialization to what I do,
Yeah.
and I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with them because they often say they do what I do, but they very rarely do, right? So
Yeah.
they're much more interested in keywords and paid. Everything for
Yes.
them is paid. And as I said to you a little bit before, most agencies, um, won't look at you, unless you're spending 2 grand a month realistically, and that's
Mm,
largely on your paid and also the way that they chop their you heard of buying, the media buying. So often when you're paying $1,000, let's say on Google Ads, well, they might carve out $400 before it's even hit Google Ads, right? So effectively, when we do the Facebook advertising, in fact, we do it on the financial year. If you're only spending $5 a day, I charge my clients 15% on that. So
mm,
often what that means is I only send them an invoice at the end of the financial year for 12 months spending. So if
yeah.
they've spent $1,500, then I'm sending them an invoice for $200 at the end of the year. Does that make
Mm,
sense? Yeah.
yeah.
So
Okay.
effectively, the reason I don't charge over and above on the Facebook advertising to the same dizzy levels that a agency does is because I'm often already writing the posts because I'm doing
Mm.
that on a day to day basis for the normal post, and then I'm just picking one that's an overall one to advertise. So that's
So
that.
the
Yeah,
posts go to the. So when you write a post, does that go to each of
each of
like?
those. Yeah. So these 4 sites here and this site
Yeah.
here. So
So
to
is the
Google update.
demographic of the people different in those that people that use Facebook to X to Instagram?
Not so
Are they
much the
different type
demographic
people?
is the well there is probably variations of the demographic, but it's probably a bit small for you to see here. It's more the fact the numbers. It's a numbers thing. So effectively, people will often say, "Well, why would I do Facebook? My clients aren't on Facebook." Well, the
Oh,
reality
that's
is,
those numbers there.
yeah. So
Okay.
basically,
Yeah.
at the bottom, you'll see that, and they this is
Yeah.
roughly correct. Let's say because 19 million 10 million Instagram. So that's why the main focus is around those two channels. But LinkedIn, as I mentioned, LinkedIn is similarly, it's CEOs and business people and
Yeah.
people, ultimately, particularly for this product, when you're talking about Luxton, it's more about getting to a portion of your demographic on each of them. And as much as anything, it also does help you from a search perspective.
Yeah.
So anyway, just to sort of move to this other side here in terms of how we work,
Yep.
less than uh, 50% of businesses actually have any social media presence, as in that might have been a
See?
Facebook page or inadvertently somehow a Google might have been set up by Google themselves if they've got an office. Um, and of them, less than 30% have ever advertised. And what we know, and particularly what I've seen over a decade, the only place that Facebook equals Instagram and WhatsApp is generous nowadays is when you spend a dollar. If you're not spending a dollar, no one's going to see your post. It's like a very subpar website, effectively,
Yeah.
if just having
Mm.
a Facebook page. But yeah, so. But like any marketing, I'm sure you've done some with various businesses. It's all about then adding it up. Okay, what does it cost to set up the profiles in the first point? Have a plan, and then management. And so that's what I'll have a look up above. And then if we're spending this much per month, what would we hope to achieve by way of return on any management and spending on ads. So as I
Mm.
said, in your case, let's say you were spending $350 a month. Well, how many wines do you need to be selling, for that sort of spend ultimately? And that would be I know in your case that includes barter card, but yeah. So again, it's trying to
Mm.
work out what sort of sales are you currently making, and is it achievable? That sort of thing too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So just so we, as you said, I do always just have a quick look. at what happens when you put in. So I just put Loxton Wines of Australia just to get a sense of whether or not you can see any social media or what the online presence looks like at the moment.
Yeah.
What yeah, what does come up is the is a Google business. I think it asked me if I own the business, which
Yeah.
is pretty commonplace. That suggests that Google probably set it up in the first place, potentially. I don't know. Do you have any back access to your this Google profile by any chance? Do you know?
Yeah.
You
Yep.
do? Yeah, okay.
Yep.
But then it's not connected to any social profiles and there's no updates coming through.
No.
Although, yeah,
No.
updates from, or maybe if there is, I've chopped it off below. So apologies. Yeah, but there may not
No.
be. It sounds
I
like
haven't.
when you said they often Google does what you said at the start of this call, where you said basically they suggested you do an update. Often they'll do it because there's not been an update for 12 months or whatever the case might be. I often get it after I've finished with clients. Come back and say, "Is it time to do another update?" Um, but but yeah, so in back in the day, if this was if you how long have you had Loxton wines? How long have you?
Probably 10 years plus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so if you look at what it comes up, and I guess with wines, it's often going to come up with other places it gets sold through, right? Um,
Mm.
would that be fair to say? So there's that's Loxton wine, but this one here is non-alcoholic wines. That's a non-alco wine. This one is Longstreet Winery. Did you say if there's some relationship with them?
No,
No.
with which one are you
Is
at?
it
Or
Longstreet Winery? Yong
Yonge
Street?
Street? No.
No. And then this one here is just another directory
Oh,
really for
Yonge
non-alcoholic
Street.
wines.
Yeah. So Yonge Street Winery, that's a .com.
Right.
So that one is probably something in Canada. So
Yeah.
just to what happens is Loxton Wines, loxtonwines.ca is a Canadian site. And what happened about 30 years ago, they wanted to sell, some people in Canada wanted to sell Australian product, and they came up with this Loxton Wines of Australia and produced these wines that I sell.
Mhm.
So, in my looking at what non-alcoholic product was available, I came across these wines that were sold in Canada, but I could not find where they came from in Australia.
Mhm.
So I contacted Loxton Wines Australia, and they said, "No, we don't make them. We only make alcoholic product."
Uh-huh.
And so I did a little bit more digging, and then eventually had a phone call with them,
Yep.
and they told me where they get their wines made,
Mhm.
which is a big manufacturer producer in Australia.
Yep.
So they said, look, you can sell our product. We buy by the container load, but there's always some left over at the end of runs, and
Mhm.
there is some stock. So if you want some, you just ring the winery and buy it.
Yep.
And so, for example, I got a pallet load today.
Yep.
Um, and they sent exactly what I wanted. Sometimes I'll ring up and they'll say, "No, we're not doing a production run for a month or 2 months,
Yep.
so you can't have any." Okay,
Right.
that's okay.
Yep.
So it's a very loose arrangement that I have
Right.
with. There's nothing in writing. Um, and I'm the only one who sells this Loxton wine. But the label on the bottle always about. It doesn't mention me as the Australian person.
No.
It just says that it's Loxton Wines, and they're the distributors in Canada.
Canada. Yep.
So uh, what I do with the wines is I sell a few through the website, not much. I did have someone approach me who does wanted them relabeled. So what we do, I relabel them
Mhm.
to Songbird Wines,
All right.
songbirdwines.com.au, and she's quite good at marketing and Instagram and those sorts of things. So
Mm.
um, most of my sales come through Songbird Wines,
All right.
but Songbird Wines don't know where I get them from.
All right.
So that's the secret.
Okay.
Nobody knows where they come from. And
It's an interesting thing, isn't it? The fact that it would be Loxton Wines of Australia, which is primarily put to Canada, and then
yeah,
like you said, and then rebranded when it's over here, which is yeah slightly unusual. So
yeah,
so those things, yeah. So that all being that would be likely to change. I would suggest if we're doing this, the intent would be to drive interest to this by way of. I just brought one up. I didn't actually. The guy that I think I told you right through the barter card. I said that I'd actually set up his. He had a wine business as well, right? Um,
yeah.
I'll show you this, right? So this was so it was Red Emu Wines. Because this is him. He's
Oh,
Rowdy's
yeah,
a rugby league guy, right? So but when we do any of them, we just sort of once we've set it up, we just show people what that looks like, right? So as I said, I didn't go on to manage, but I did set them up for him so that they could be managed. It's fair to say Rarity's a bit of a character. So, but anyway, just to give you a bit of a line of sight. So this is the LinkedIn page that was created. I'm hoping all these are going to go through the way they should. As I said,
yeah,
I haven't view as a member, but essentially posts would go through to the LinkedIn company. Um, I updated Rowdy's profile, which wasn't an easy. It was no easy task, but again. Uh, Rowdy's other main love, or the other thing that I set him up with was a punting. He's got a online racing and sport tipping business, basically.
oh,
Um,
okay,
yeah, so normally with wines, this is slightly different. I think with yours, I would have the actual um, logo in this particular part because this is actually the most common mistake businesses make is they actually it's often asked about they put logos up here and cover images down here so but
yeah,
this would be your which I've already cropped so I already have a version of that which I think I put on the I put on here, right? So I already
yeah,
know so effectively this would be the logo on everything.
mm,
That image there.
yeah,
Um, it would be more clearer when it's not on a PDF. But
yeah,
anyway, so yeah, but then there is other images that you have got on the website that could easily be this cover image, right? So,
yeah,
so that's the Facebook page, and you kind of get the gist. I hope is that effectively um, LinkedIn, sorry, Instagram. Now again, there's no post been going through there other than the original one I did with him, right? So, but effectively, it normally would be, and it would be the same post, albeit that they need to get modified. We use a particular tool to do that. But yeah, so it's basically been set up. It's going to all of the different spaces, including we saw yours does already have a Google map. But what it didn't have was any updates around it. So
no,
essentially,
yeah,
that's the other thing. So you'd sort of take charge of that, and you'd make sure that all of your actual profiles are linked to your Google Maps. So the idea is you basically connect everything up. So it's sort of everything's holding each other's hands, for want
yes,
of a better,
yeah,
so that you kind of know you're not missing out. I'll just knock off a few of these. All right, so um, all right. I think I might have gone over the top. Oh, there's that one there. So anyway, um, so um, I hope that sort of that's clear around
mm,
what the plan and the strategy is. So effectively, what we're then doing, and what I was explaining up here on this first page, is that or probably in a nutshell, why we do it. So we set them up so that you're protecting your brand across the different social
yeah,
platforms. You're differentiating the brand. I can tell you that most wineries don't have all of their bases covered, no matter how big they are. Even if they have got all of those channels, it would be rare that they would have a consistent habit of posting to those channels in all of the areas, right?
mm,
Because the intent is, from a marketing context, there's only two things marketing communications are trying to achieve. They're trying to generate repeat businesses from the people that already know of you, or refer business. So, in other words, more of the same client,
yep,
or they're getting new business. So it's the ongoing every second day post, let's say, that is creating that repeat business or more business. And it's any sort of that's nominal Facebook advertising where you're targeting people that at the moment don't know of the brand, right? So essentially you're
Right.
trying to get in front of the people that don't know who you are. And you're trying to get in front of them on their Facebook feed or their Instagram. They're the two
Mm.
largely where those ads will pop up. Um, and then yeah, well, ultimately, and we don't wouldn't do it unless we're trying to increase the business opportunities and make sales at the end of the day. So
So is that every second day to these each one?
yeah, every second day to each one. So a post goes out to each
Wow,
channel.
that's a lot.
It's a
Yeah.
lot, yeah. So it's basically, so I think I had down here, there was two that you could consider from. So, um, so the way, from a costing perspective, the way this works out, I think I mentioned to you, it's probably, I don't know if I can make this a little bit bigger, but he
I've
said,
got the page open
oh, you've
here.
got
Yeah,
the
okay.
page there already.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So essentially, the top part, the once off stuff, where it's stage one, stage two, that's that sort of 3 hour plus 2 hour session where we just basically setting
Yeah.
everything up, and
Yep.
then we're doing a plan around that includes the Facebook Ads Manager setup, basically.
Yep.
As I said, I'm happy to sort of weigh in heavily on the barter card around that, just as a once off where you're paying. Trade 844.25 and cash at 214. Effectively, I'm taking 100% trade on the setup.
Yeah.
So I must have been feeling really generous when I did that. But anyway, there you go. um,
It must
uh,
have been the Western Bulldogs must have been kicking goals at the
well, the
time.
thing is, at the moment, I've got this sort of end of financial thing happening where I think for you, as I said, given I'm taking a trade this month, it's sort of, it's sort of, I'm happy to go with that. So it's all
Yeah.
good. Um, and also, like you said, we'd see how this one goes, and there could be opportunities for the garden side of things as well. Um, and then, so the difference between what we have is all of this stuff is on our website as well, but the XXS, which is I do it like t-shirt sizes. So the extra extra small is basically two
Ah, okay.
is
Yep.
basically two posts a week and
Yep.
every 4 month reporting. So
All right.
two posts a week to all. So each of those posts go to the 5 channels. So
Yep.
depending on how you want to think of it, it's two posts times 5 per week,
Yep.
for an extra extra small. The extra small is Monday, Wednesday, Friday posting, and that's every second month reporting. So I base this on your website at the moment. I don't think you've really got enough content for me to doing everyday posting.
All
Um,
right.
I think that would be too much. But that, just so you know, that one I haven't quoted there. But yeah, so that's everyday posting Monday to Friday, and then every month reporting for some of my small
Yeah.
businesses. So, but yeah, so I thought these ones would probably be more in your remit. I sort of
Yeah.
put in there that what it would be half of the 292, which would be every second day. But as I said, if
Yeah.
you were to say, well, okay, let's just do two a week, you haven't been doing it for forever and a day, you can start with that. That'd be fine as well.
No, I'm happy with the XS.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
XS.
So,
Yeah, that's fine.
so every second day, as I said, and
Yeah.
that's a monthly repeating.
Yeah.
We don't lock anybody in. So but what we do ask is that, give us sort of 7 to 14 days notice if we were to, turn things off. And just judging by what you're saying to me, it'd be interesting to see because you're realistically a distribution business, right?
Yes.
So. Yeah, it'll be just be interesting to test and see how it plays for you, where you haven't been really doing anything along these
No.
lines. So it would be a good little case study for me, and certainly a good way
Hmm.
for you to test it for yourself. So that's makes it quite exciting. So
Oh,
um,
and I think given that we've basically got a fairly simple range too,
yeah,
um, and yeah, generally I've just waited for people to hit. But yes, it sort of dawned on me that, gee, I'm relabeling quite a bit here,
mm,
um, and selling it more than what I'm actually selling. So obviously her social marketing works, and me just having a very sort of basic website doesn't work.
mm,
So let's give it a go. That's what
yeah,
I think.
give that a
and
go.
it will be a very interesting exercise.
Are you likely to want to offer this? Is this one of your businesses that you offer on trade as well, or no?
No, I haven't
Y-
sold it on trade.
Yeah,
On my trade, I'm sort of in the semi-retirement
yeah.
side because I just do a little bit of accounting every now and
Mm.
again.
And I think you
Um,
said you got quite a lot
yeah,
of it, so I think it would sound like
yeah,
you don't want to necessarily, particularly like you said, if you're
no,
semi-retired and otherwise, you probably don't want to keep accruing a whole stack of it. So, yep,
no,
fair
no.
enough. No, all good. Either way, I just look at it as it's probably another holiday to New Zealand at some stage. We'll just see how we go. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
so I think. But that would be, you're quite right. If someone else is actually just relabeling it and they're
yeah,
managing to sell more than you are, then
mm,
we'll certainly be testing that, because as much as anything, we'll be pitting ourselves against people trying to sell non-alcoholic wines. And what will start happening is you will come up a lot more around non-alcoholic wines. So straight away, the reason, as I said, you'll find that in a very short time, particularly if you're doing Loxton Wines of Australia, the first page would all be you. It wouldn't. It would be like your
yeah,
Facebook page. It would be your other social channels. It would no longer be directory sites, because that's directory sites, particularly for your yellow page type directory, was very 15 years ago. In terms of what typically came up. Nowadays, most businesses, if they've got any socials, and often it doesn't matter how much they actually use it, the socials are generally fairly strong, but
mm,
also the way to use it is really is that consistency in newsfeed, and that really makes a big difference. And one of your questions earlier was around the different demographics. It's quite interesting at times, particularly from what gets picked up from search. It could be a
yeah,
one particular tweet that went out at one point that, for
yeah.
whatever reason, had a higher engagement or whatever it might have been, that can often aid certain things, albeit that in the main, Google and
Mm,
search and Bing, you mentioned others, um, it's generally longevity. So
mm,
it's almost, if you created something a decade ago and you put it up a decade ago, that
yes.
often is the strongest reasoning, not the fact that all of a sudden in the last year someone's doing it more and more and more, although that does build up over time. But yeah, because the
So
other thing is, yeah, if
yeah.
someone has started the Facebook page, particularly for somebody like me, and probably for consumers in total. So if you were to go to someone's Facebook page and they haven't posted in 6 months or a year, people will just go, are they still in business? That's one thing.
Yes, yes,
Are they
yeah,
still in business? And or, well, really, they won't follow it because you're not putting anything out. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So anyway, so yeah, that's
So overall, what you've got to think about here, and I suggest that you have a look at Loxton, Canada,
yeah,
and that is what with Loxton Wines of Australia. In a sense, I'm although unofficially,
mm,
I'm representing them in Australia because I'm selling their wines in Australia.
yep,
Now, I would think that that's a plus for Loxton Wine getting the name out there because they're not selling here anyway. So I
yeah.
call my site, yeah,
This is
my
you.
site's loxtonwines.com.au.
Yeah,
Um,
oh, that's right. Their
but
one's just no dot com, not no dot au, is there?
yeah,
That's the
so
difference.
so they're loxtonwines.ca. I'm
Oh, dot ca.
loxtonwines.com.au. There's an Australian company called loxtonwines.com,
Ah,
and they sell wines that are alcoholic. So
ah.
whether with me ramping it up somewhat, whether they're likely to get upset, I don't know, because they could say you can't use Loxton Wines of Australia because that's our brand.
Yeah. So
Whereas,
what I can tell you, for instance, this here, this
yep,
video that's rolling, that
yep,
would be the best possible promotional video that I would suggest advertising, So I would just basically say Loxton Wines of Australia and basically use a video like this in the feeds and then point it to your site. And only you'd only target people in Australia though. So I wonder whether so the Loxton CA, I'm assuming they're not selling. Well, again, going back to that 80/20, I'd be very surprised if people from Australia are buying the Loxton Wines of Australia from Canada.
No, they're not.
Yeah, so
It, sometimes I get no. So you'd think that it'd be important for them to have a presence here, but yeah, they've got lots of. They sell it to a lot of places in Canada.
yeah,
They don't have a presence in the UK or Spain or other places. They just seem to be selling in Canada, from what I can see.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. What I would say to
so
you is your social media presence will, over time, be stronger than theirs, essentially.
yeah,
But what I would also wonder, because I wonder, because again, so actual fact, so this Loxton Wines in Canada actually only has 13 followers. So
oh,
they're not using it. So and this is pretty typical when people get freelancers or their nieces or daughters to do stuff, right? Is that they basically use an Instagram only strategy because that's
yeah,
all the freelancers typically know, essentially. Because you even mentioned with that other brand in Australia, the problem with using Instagram only strategy is I can't buy off here. As in, this can't see how here you can't actually click on anything. Whereas Facebook,
mm,
you can at least go back to the website and find it. Here, you have to, everything is from up here, right? So you need to go to the link in bio, and that just
yeah,
takes me to the website. But if I'm advertising something, which clearly they're not, then all of a sudden you do have a button in the feed on the actual the Instagram post itself. So you can
yeah,
actually generate visitations from Instagram, but
mm.
Instagrammers often, I don't know, necessarily share that with their clients. Or as I said, it could well be it's a graduate that's come in and that works with them.
Yeah,
Um,
they seem to have a lot of wholesalers on their list, so maybe they're just concerned about other people promoting their product
yeah, what
through their own websites.
yeah, what I would say is that the advantage for you is, particularly with any of these ones where they've been, because often they're paying quite a bit of money potentially to have. Mm, I would generally put it in a canvas style probably anyway because it's so product based. But there's probably nothing to stop us from just downloading their image library because there's not that much of it. So
Mm,
and it doesn't look to me, that because that was from what was this Goodbye 24. So we're almost half a year, aren't we? And they've done 6 posts. So they're probably putting out one a month.
mm.
And as I said, it looks like they've only got 2 channels, but I'd hope there's some chance I'll be able to find this video. Um, and I reckon you use that video. That
They've
video.
got. I like their website. It looks fairly good to me.
It is a good website. Oh, it's nice when you get that video flowing through. Of course, yeah, it's great. That's what I said. There's got to be a way of finding the source of this video, and if I can find the source, I've got ways to be able to download it and then
Mm.
use it for you. But as I said, that's kind of work done from an advertising perspective for you because the old saying, images tell 1,000 words.
Ah,
Well,
yeah,
I
they do.
reckon moving images probably tell 10,000 words. So that's work done. That's a lot better than anything I'm going to be able to do in Canva. So
Yeah,
that's because that's professional. You can't just come up with something like that. Without doing that. So, but everything for you will point back to you, right? So all of your
yeah,
social media will point back to here. And then, because I mentioned to you before, we'd want to try and get your these links that we create, the 6 social media links, including
yeah.
so the sixth one is YouTube, but we put them up here. But they would open in a new channel. So even if you look at similarly for my site, right? So if I go to my site, I can easily get to my social media channels, but it doesn't go over the top of over my website. Because if
So to get into the website, do I give you the password to get in,
I,
or do
I know
I
not the
give you
website.
what?
No, what will happen is once we've set up that, I'll give you, you'll have all the links. Um,
Yeah.
and what I would suggest, I think you told me with your website, there's a Geelong
Yeah.
person that you can go to.
Yeah.
Um,
He could insert them.
he'll
Yeah.
do them. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you would have him do it. I don't know if it may be set up. I don't know if that's a WordPress. Potentially it is.
It is
It's
WordPress.
WordPress.
Yes.
So if it's WordPress, it'll be an easy thing. It'll just sit
Yeah.
probably up either up here next to this cart, or maybe even potentially even above it. But um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that would be the main thing, just so that they all lead to one another and they're all connected in that way. And there's a bit of pixel code that he can put behind it too, which just tells us how many people are going through. It's a little bit like Facebook's version or Meta's version of your Google Analytics. So
Oh, yeah.
it
Yeah.
just helps me know that if we're running or doing the post across all the sites, but then we're also running the advertising, how many people are actually going through the pages. And
Yeah.
so let's say there's 600 people a month. It doesn't necessarily tell us which page they're spending time on, but at least we know that, and it doesn't, that's not 600 individual people. That might be 200 people going to three different pages, for instance. You know what I mean? But it
Yeah.
just tells us
Yeah.
that it's happening. And that pixel tells us that it's happening as a result of everything that you do, not just from the social media side of things. So yeah, so it's usually a good thing for you to know anyway, that people
Mm.
are actually visiting and looking at it. And it may well be at times it's your ones that are wanting to be relabeling as well, So could be others too. Yeah.
Well, it may attract some people who want to sell as retailers,
Yeah.
because I don't have any wholesalers as such, apart from this one
Yeah.
lady Songbird.
Yep.
Her and she she does it because she's interested in it. Her husband is a very successful real estate agent in Melbourne,
Oh yeah.
and she does some media work for him,
Oh yeah.
and I think she just likes it. Like, they live in the premier suburb of in Brighton in
Oh,
Melbourne.
very nice.
I reckon the house is worth 10 million at least. Uh,
Oh
so
my god.
she
There you
doesn't
go.
need to
Wow.
do but
Yeah.
where this product went just the other day, like she's got some really good links. I rebranded some product and it went to the Royal Brighton Yacht Club.
Oh wow.
So um, so I
Happy
haven't
days.
sold product in there, but she's able to get it into places like that. So
Yeah, yeah.
um, basically, I get product out, and uh, basically she makes a profit, I make a profit.
Yeah.
She's happy that she's got some little independent income for herself.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, and
so,
she's using this is a Shopify website too, which is yeah.
so
So
she's got those little links down there. I saw, yeah,
yeah,
looks
she's
like,
only using Instagram, and these are very much like Instagram tiles, So
okay.
yeah, so she clearly enjoys doing that side of things from a
So,
branding perspective
so
as
if
well.
I needed, I could probably send her some Loxton product, and she could redo images like this if need be.
Yeah, well,
Something
I would
nicer.
sort of brand it for you. I can do that
Yeah,
for effectively, but I wouldn't necessarily. I would just keep it on brand, but more towards what the Loxton brand is. I mean, she's
yeah,
sort of playing on. This requires a graphic designer virtually.
yeah.
I don't,
I think that's what she
yeah,
is, a
yeah.
graphic
So
designer.
ultimately, dare I say it, I'm kind of bit like a tradesman, more tradesman like. What's going to get you the best? What's the best use of time and money?
Yeah, right.
So essentially, if you look at the other side, for me, it's almost putting a Loxton bottle behind it with a vineyard behind it, sort of thing. I think a lot
Yeah,
of their ones were that. So
yeah.
they, I saw a few of them, even this sort of thing, but there was something that I saw, but effectively. Um, Whilst it's quite different to you, I think I mentioned to it last time. I'm doing cable covers, electrical cable covers. Now that's a very specific product, and so to, to soften that, I've been sort of doing. Uh, I'll just actually show you this actually, just to give you an idea of what
Electrical.
our Canva, it sort of stays on brand, but yours is clearly a much more interesting product than what table covers are. I mix it up with other things, so this, but then effectively this is like a sock thing. And so,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah,
essentially we're still, it's quite, this is, to be fair, more salesy than most of the stuff that I do. But
yeah,
ultimately, it's still trying to get them so that when they see a particular product, let's say this tape, they can still go to here and find that tape, to buy,
yeah,
how do I buy it for my business or whatever the case might be, right? So, and that's probably what's missing at the moment, I would say. And the other thing I was going to say that you might want to, now that you know a little bit more about social media than you did before, just to help the lady at Songbird, um, the one thing she could do to help herself um, is, where is it here? Um, did you see when so here I'm on the website at the moment, right? So this is exactly where I want to be if I want to buy the Sparkling Brute, for instance.
yeah.
If I was, albeit it's very low key, if I was to click on her Instagram, it goes straight over the top of the website. So then what typically would happen, I might give that a follow, but then I might notice I've got notifications over here. And then all of a sudden, I'm lost into social media world and I forgot what website I was actually on before. Does that make
Oh, okay.
sense?
Yes,
So,
yes,
so
yeah.
what we recommend that they do is they actually, when I click on that Instagram, we tell the website people to make sure it opens in a new tab. It doesn't open
Mm,
over the top of the website, because if it opens over the top of the website, you may lose them and not get them back again.
yep,
Yep. So,
yeah.
so maybe you could say that you love her website. One little thing that you noticed that she might want to do that. Anyway,
I see
that's,
she's got 2,700 followers there.
yeah, well, that's
So
good following, as you said.
is
Well,
that good?
yeah, it's a very good following.
Okay.
And that would make sense. At the same time, I think it is good. But what I would say to you is that because people often confuse, like following is great. Very good,
Mm,
right? You'll probably only have in the hundreds to start with. Um,
yeah.
but the reality is, if I'm spending $5 a day promoting, I know that between 10 and 15,000 people are going to see the daily posts
Yeah.
and the advertised posts.
Right.
Whereas I would suggest, at best, even with 2,000 following, if she's not advertising, she may well be advertising, but if she's not advertising, um, she's probably getting 300 and 400 people on a site like that seeing her
Mm,
post per month. And it's got to do with how often you post. But more's the point is, as I said, Facebook or Meta nowadays is not
yeah.
generous with organic posts. No, but hers is what you'd call a curated. It's almost curated social media, which, as I said, if you've got the time and the money to do it, then good on you. But
Yeah.
it's more made to look. It's like, as I said, it's curated because it looks nice, right? Um, it doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily move. It doesn't hurt the product, but it doesn't necessarily get the eyeballs on the product that what a simple dollar spend
Mm,
does.
yeah.
So yeah, and she also is limited to that one channel. So realistically, if she's only posting to Instagram, then there could be a
Mm,
weight of client that would like to know about it, and it more easily find it if she was posting Google Update and
mm.
Facebook posts as well.
Probably, yes. I didn't know what social media she was using,
Yeah,
so I make it nice and easy for her. So if
yeah,
she gets an order on her site, she just sends it to me. I pack it and I send it,
yeah, yeah,
and then at the end of the month, I send her a bill.
yeah.
So,
And I think
um,
you're right. That was your first question, though. You said, do they break down? Instagram would be, I don't know the specific breakdown, but I would suspect um, it would almost be 80% female, under 50 maybe, or
uh,
maybe, or certainly, well, maybe not 80. Let's say 70/30 would be the likely breakdown of Instagram. So
yeah,
again, it depends if you think male and female would be drinking it equally. That would be another
mm,
thing. You certainly wouldn't have that breakdown on most of the other channels. Yeah, so
no,
but it would wait because yeah, more typically the fair agenda likes the certain
yeah.
platforms. Yeah. Anyway, Yeah. So anyway, that's been good chatting. We've been going. Sorry, that's probably me
Yeah,
not taking a
I think
breath.
I think what I'd like to do, Steve, is if you were to send me an invoice for 6 months and I just pay 6 months in advance, so we lock it in for 6 months and see how we
lock
go.
lock it in and give it a go. All right. Well,
Yeah.
before we do that, because yeah, I'm always comfortable and it's easy for me to send an invoice, but I want to make sure that we get the work done to start with. So, what about we doing that session? Do you reckon you'd want to do that in one sitting, the 3 plus 2 hours, or would you want to split that over 2 half days?
Two halves, I think, would be
Yeah.
better. Yeah.
Do you what? How are you placed over the next week or so?
Uh, Fairly busy, but I'll fit things in which I need to fit in because I'm going away mid the 18th of July. So
Okay. Yep.
things
So
have got to get done by in June, early July.
well, what I can say, what would be ideal for me if it would suit you, how does 3 hours next Thursday morning, or actual fact, a time on Thursday that suits you,
Thursday,
the 12th?
Thursday the 12th is okay. Thursday the 12th, but it would need to be after uh, probably after one because I play table tennis in the morning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Let's say,
Yeah.
well, how about we say 1 o'clock?
1 o'clock, 1 o'clock. Yes,
Yeah.
we'll do it from then. That'll
Okay.
work
Let's
out
say
well.
1 to 4 p.m. on uh,
Yeah,
that that day.
yeah. Thursday
Loxton
the
Wines
12th.
Australia. And then, and what about if for the other 2 hours, if we were to do that the following day on the Friday, could you,
Yep,
could we do that?
we could.
What's
Yeah.
your Friday look like?
Friday morning's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah, first up, so good.
should we say 9:30?
9:30 is good.
Yeah.
Yep,
9:30. So that'd be 9:30 to 11:30. So then what I'll do, because there is again, it's nothing to be intimidated by, but what I'll send you, we use a thing called Basecamp, which is our project management sort of tool, and I'll send you a whole checklist of what we're going to work through on those
yep,
2 sessions. And it's just a way of me keeping all the information in one place so I don't sort of miss things. I'll put this little video on there as well, or in there, so we can go back if I don't know that we'll need to, but at least it will be in there if we ever wanted to. Um,
yep.
and we will record those sessions too, just in case you ever wanted to go and have a look at those as well. But basically, so I'll send you a calendar invite. I'll send you an email that comes from Basecamp, and then basically we'll go from there. And as you
Sounds
said,
great.
I'm more than happy if you want to. I'll send you. It's That would certainly be happy, particularly or handy from a trade perspective. Um, just to do that in one go as well, like you said.
Mm.
So that's awesome. It's not normally how we do it, but if that's how you'd like to do it, I'm happy to do it that way.
Oh yeah, it just makes life nice and simple when a commitment.
Oh
It's a
well, I
commitment.
like commitment, Paul. You've made me happy this afternoon. That's very pleasing. So that's no, it's good. No, I
Yeah.
appreciate. I really do appreciate it. I don't take it lightly. It's great.
No, no, so that's good. Thanks, Steve. I've enjoyed that and look forward to developing this and uh, see how it works because that's how well you will see non-elk wines appears
Yep.
on that's my other website
Yep.
that I sell other product.
Okay.
So I started all this um, as an exercise to give me some some skill initially, uh, back in 2005 or something when people were doing websites to
Yeah.
so as a practicing accountant when people came to me and said what's all this e-commerce about,
Yeah.
um, I say and back end what does that mean,
Right. Yeah. Okay.
so I wanted to get involved and be able to go in and put an image,
Yep.
crop it,
Right.
put it on the website, change a price, uh, send an email out through MailChimp. I wanted to know
Yeah.
how to
Yeah.
do all those things. So, um, because I wanted to support small business. So,
Yeah.
and it was real early days. So, some of those things were, but I've learned a lot over the years, and and then attaching the e-commerce pay facilities like eWay and PayPal and all those things. So I understand those because I use those myself. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Actually,
uh,
Easy Debit's what I use most for most clients.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
same. Yeah,
So
fair enough.
yeah, it works. But I wanted to know how these things work rather than just saying to someone, "Oh yeah, you can have a website, you can have
Yeah,
social
yeah.
media." But I never got into the social media side of
Yeah,
things.
well, you. This is realistically a lot of people, and dare I say it, particularly, you know how like attracts like. So I find that particularly gents in business that are a 10-year or so swing of me, younger or older,
Yeah,
effectively you will glean a lot from those sessions. And what I
yeah,
often say to people, all of a sudden people start to understand this Australian Loxton Wines car, that social media car that they now have available to them. Yes, I'm
yeah,
going to drive it, but effectively but you're riding with me. And so you
yeah,
do get a really good understanding, because I make sure that it's set up um, so that you're the owner. I can manage, but you actually, they're an asset for you, that you'll learn a lot, and you'll take a lot, and not just hearing from you and the type of person that you are. I think you'll really find it a bit of fun, but also quite knowledgeable. You'll have built quite a bit of knowledge just through those few
mhm.
sessions. Yeah,
Yeah, good.
that's
All
great.
right, thanks very much, Steve. Look
Great,
forward
Paul.
to
You have a good
catching up.
evening, and
You too.
go the dogs and cats. We'll see how we go.
Yes.
I think you've
All right.
have you got a
Uh,
bye this week, or you got a game this week? The
Now
cats.
we've got a game at in Geelong this week.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
tomorrow, Saturday night.
Who's
Yeah.
that against?
I don't know.
Oh, in
Could
any case,
be. It might be St. No, no, I don't know. I
someone
can't
actually.
remember.
Is it against the? It's not against the reigning premiers, is it?
I don't
No.
know.
Anyway,
I don't know.
as
Yeah.
you said, I should know. I'm doing all right. I think I told you I'm doing all right in the tipping. I should know that. I can't remember. I think I've picked cats, but anyway. All right.
All right.
Go well. Thanks, Paul.
Take care.
Cheers
All
now.
right.
See
Bye.
ya.